What makes an ordinary person become a great leader? Is it the title they hold, the authority they command, or perhaps something more subtle yet more powerful? The ability to paint a picture of a future so compelling that others want to step into it with them. Vision is not a set of numbers in a plan, nor is it a slogan crafted to fit nicely on a wall. Vision is the lighthouse in the dark, a beam of light cutting through fog and storm, guiding not only one ship, but an entire fleet toward safer shores. It does not eliminate the waves or calm the winds, but it tells everyone where the destination lies. And in that guiding light, people find hope, direction, and courage to keep moving forward. This audiobook is not about management techniques or tactical decisions. It is about the art of painting the future, the essence of leadership that transforms ordinary figures into legends. From the voices of history to the innovators of today, the great leaders we remember did not limit themselves to maintaining the status quo. They dared to imagine a different tomorrow and invited others to step into that dream. If you stay with me in this journey, you will learn not only why vision matters, but how it can be shaped, expressed, and lived in such a way that it inspires action every single day. Before we dive deeper, let me ask you something. As you're listening right now, wherever you are, in your office, at home, or maybe on the road, take a moment to comment below and share where and what time you're listening from. It's always inspiring to see this community gathering across different places and hours, yet united by one journey of learning. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Audiobook Sanctuary and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. This space exists so that voices like yours can grow stronger and visions like yours can take shape. Now, let's return to our story. Imagine standing at the edge of a crowded harbor centuries ago. Ships are preparing to set sail. The sea is restless, and no one knows exactly what lies ahead. The sailors, though brave, are nervous. Some whisper about storms, others fear getting lost. But then, in the distance, a lighthouse glows steadily. Its light doesn't calm the sea, nor does it guarantee safe passage, but it gives the sailors something precious: direction. That is what vision does for people. It gives them a destination to move toward, even when the journey is uncertain. In every field, whether politics, business, science, or community leadership, the presence of a vision changes everything. Without vision, effort feels scattered, like water poured on sand. People work, yes, but often without unity or shared meaning. Tasks get done, but no story connects them. With vision, however, every action links to a larger narrative. Suddenly, the accountant's numbers, the engineer's design, and the marketer's campaign are no longer isolated jobs. They become brushstrokes in a painting of the future. History offers us vivid examples. Think of the great civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. His words, "I have a dream," echoed far beyond that moment in Washington. He didn't present a spreadsheet of social reforms, nor did he issue a dry policy statement. Instead, he painted a picture, a vision where children of different races would walk hand in hand, where justice would roll down like waters, where dignity would be given to every human being. That vision was not about what was, it was about what could be. And because it was spoken with such clarity and passion, people began to see it in their minds as if it already existed. That is the magic of vision. Consider another scene, one from the modern world of innovation. Elon Musk, for all the debates surrounding his style, embodies the principle of vision-driven leadership. When he spoke about colonizing Mars or transitioning the world to sustainable energy, he wasn't merely selling cars or rockets. He was articulating a grander future, His companies attracted not only customers, but believers, people who felt they were contributing to something bigger than themselves. And that feeling is what drives loyalty, persistence, and sacrifice. Yet vision is not limited to figures with global fame. In small businesses, local communities, and even families, the same principle applies. A parent who says, "I want to raise children who will be kind, resilient, and curious about the world," is casting a vision. A community organizer who dreams of transforming an empty lot into a public garden where neighbors can gather is casting a vision. Leadership begins whenever someone decides to step forward and describe a future worth building. But let's pause here and recognize a hard truth. Not every statement called a vision truly deserves the name. Some leaders confuse vision with vague promises, statements that sound lofty but inspire no one. A real vision must do more than please the ears. It must capture the heart and anchor the will. It must be specific enough to be imaginable, inspiring enough to stir passion, and realistic enough that people believe it can be reached. This balance is rare, and that is why true visionary leaders stand out. Think again of the lighthouse. If its light is too faint, ships won't see it. If it flickers inconsistently, sailors won't trust it. If it shines in the wrong direction, it leads them astray. But when it shines steadily, clearly, and toward the right destination, it becomes a lifeline. Leaders must tend to their vision in the same way, keeping it bright, stable, and aligned with what people most deeply yearn for. One way to understand vision is to see it as a bridge between the present and the future. The present is filled with constraints, problems, and limitations. The future, by contrast, is a landscape of possibility. Vision draws a line across the gap, saying, "This is where we are, and that is where we could be." Without the bridge, people remain stuck on the present shore, overwhelmed by obstacles. With the bridge, they begin to walk, step by step, towards something greater. Leaders throughout history have been bridge builders of this kind. Winston Churchill, in the darkest days of World War II, did not merely recount the enemy's strength. He painted a vision of Britain standing firm, of a world where tyranny would not triumph. That vision gave courage to a weary nation. Likewise, entrepreneurs in today's digital era are often praised not because their first product was perfect, but because their vision of what it could lead to was strong enough to attract both investors and believers. So why is vision the very first quality we must explore when speaking of leadership? Because without it, leadership shrinks into mere administration. It becomes about solving today's problems without imagining tomorrow's potential. A leader without vision is like a captain who knows how to steer the ship but has no idea where the ship is headed. They may avoid rocks for a while, but eventually they will drift aimlessly. A leader with vision, however, transforms even ordinary challenges into purposeful steps on a meaningful journey. As you reflect on this, consider your own sphere of influence. Perhaps you lead a team at work, or you guide your family, or maybe you're shaping a personal project. What vision are you casting? If someone asked, "Where are we going and why?" could you answer with words that ignite both clarity and excitement? If not, then this is your invitation to begin shaping one. And here, at the close of this first section, remember, vision is not optional for leadership. It is the essence of leadership. It is the lighthouse that draws people forward, the bridge that connects present struggle with future possibility. Without it, energy dissipates. With it, energy aligns. This is why the leaders who endure in our memory are those who dared to speak of a future beyond what was visible. Now that we have understood why vision is the guiding light, the question naturally arises: what kind of vision truly captivates? What makes a vision compelling enough that people not only hear it, but carry it in their hearts? That is the journey we will step into next. What makes a vision compelling enough that people stop what they are doing and lean forward, listening with full attention? What separates a forgettable phrase from a rallying cry that echoes across generations? To answer these questions, we need to look deeper into the anatomy of a powerful vision. A compelling vision is not just an abstract dream. It is a future that feels tangible, a picture so vivid and believable that people can see themselves living inside it. At its core, a compelling vision has three qualities. It is clear, it is inspiring, and it is feasible. If one of these pieces is missing, the vision falters. If it is not clear, people cannot understand it. If it is not inspiring, people will not care about it. And if it is not feasible, people will not believe it. The harmony of these three qualities is what makes a vision magnetic. Let us begin with clarity. A clear vision strips away unnecessary complexity. It avoids jargon, avoids ambiguity, and presents a picture that even a child can grasp. When John F. Kennedy declared in 1961 that America would put a man on the moon before the end of the decade, he did not speak in technical terms about propulsion systems, orbit calculations, or engineering challenges. He painted a single, unforgettable goal: a man on the moon. Everyone could picture it. Engineers, scientists, and ordinary citizens alike could close their eyes and see it. That clarity turned an improbable ambition into a shared national mission. Clarity also means focus. A leader may have many dreams, but the vision must be distilled into something that can be remembered and repeated. Think about the countless companies that claim to redefine excellence or lead the industry. Such statements sound impressive, but vanish from memory almost immediately because they lack precision. Contrast that with Patagonia's vision to save our home planet. It is short, unmistakable, and infused with purpose. People may not remember every product Patagonia sells, but they remember the vision because it is clear and concrete. But clarity alone is not enough. A vision must also inspire. It must light a fire in people's hearts, not just their minds. Inspiration comes from touching deeper values: dignity, freedom, adventure, justice, love for family, love for community, or the desire to leave a legacy. When Martin Luther King Jr. declared, "I have a dream," his words soared because they connected with the timeless human longing for equality and dignity. He did not speak of policy details first. He spoke of children walking hand in hand, of freedom ringing from mountaintops. He painted images that stirred the soul. That is the essence of inspiration. In business, consider Steve Jobs standing on a stage introducing the iPod. 1,000 songs in your pocket. He did not drown his audience in gigabytes and technical features. He cast a vision of possibility, music becoming an intimate companion that travels with you wherever you go. The clarity was simple, but the inspiration lay in how it made people feel: empowered, modern, and connected to the joy of music. That combination transformed not just a product, but an entire industry. Yet clarity and inspiration must be grounded in feasibility. If a vision seems impossible, it risks being dismissed as fantasy. People will nod politely, but never commit. Feasibility does not mean the vision must be easy. It can be audacious, but it must rest on a foundation that makes people believe it can be achieved. Kennedy's moonshot worked because despite its boldness, it was framed within the resources of the most powerful nation of its time. Backed by scientists who were already making strides in space exploration. The dream was daring, but it was not untethered from reality. This is where balance is crucial. A vision too focused on feasibility may lose its magic and feel uninspiring, like a to-do list. A vision too focused on inspiration may feel like a fantasy novel, stirring emotions but failing to move people to act. The best visions live at the intersection, big enough to excite, real enough to pursue. Consider the example of Muhammad Yunus, founder of Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. His vision was that poor villagers, especially women, could use small loans to transform their lives. To many, this sounded too idealistic. Yet Yunus designed a system, microfinance, that proved the feasibility of this dream. Today, millions of families have been lifted from poverty because one man's vision combined inspiration with a practical mechanism. His story reminds us that a vision must be more than poetic. It must be actionable. So how can an ordinary leader craft such a vision? Start by asking, can people picture it? Can they feel it? Can they believe in it? These three questions act as a compass. If the answer to all three is yes, the vision has power. If even one answer is no, the vision needs refinement. Let's explore these questions one by one. When people can picture a vision, they can tell the story themselves. Imagine you are leading a school, and your vision is a campus where every child feels safe to dream. If parents, teachers, and students can describe what that looks like, a classroom where no child is bullied, a playground alive with laughter, teachers encouraging curiosity, then your vision has taken root. It has moved from your mind into theirs. When people can feel a vision, they connect it to their values. Leaders often forget this. They believe that logic alone persuades. But humans are not machines. We are driven by meaning. If you lead a startup and your vision is to make sustainable energy affordable for all, your employees are not just working for a paycheck. They are working to leave the planet healthier for their children. That emotional connection fuels perseverance when challenges arise. And when people can believe in a vision, they invest their effort. Belief is what transforms passive listeners into active participants. It comes from seeing that the path is challenging but not impossible. Employees, followers, or citizens must feel that their contribution matters, that they can walk the road with you. Without belief, even the clearest and most inspiring vision collapses under doubt. History shows us that when these elements converge, entire movements awaken. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela's vision of a multiracial democracy was so compelling that it survived decades of struggle. His clarity, ending apartheid, his inspiration, justice and reconciliation, and his feasibility, structured negotiations and global pressure, combined to make what once seemed impossible a reality. People did not just hear his vision, they carried it in their hearts. Let us return to our lighthouse metaphor. Clarity is the brightness of the beam. It must be seen clearly even from afar. Inspiration is the direction it points. It must lead toward a place people want to go. Feasibility is the foundation of the lighthouse itself. Without a solid base, the structure collapses and the light is lost. Together, they form a vision that guides entire communities through uncertainty. As you reflect on your own life, think of a vision you might cast for yourself, your family, or your work. Is it clear enough that others could repeat it? Is it inspiring enough that they would want to? Is it feasible enough that they would commit their energy to it? If so, you may be closer to true leadership than you realize. And now, as we step into the next part of our journey, a new question arises. Clarity, inspiration, and feasibility may shape a vision. But how does a leader bring that vision into people's hearts? Words alone are not enough. Facts alone will not move crowds. To make a vision live, leaders turn to one of humanity's oldest tools, storytelling. Words can explain. Numbers can persuade. but only stories can reach the deepest part of the human spirit. If vision is the seed of leadership, then storytelling is the water that allows it to grow. Without narrative, even the clearest, most inspiring vision remains abstract, floating above people's lives like a distant star. With storytelling, that star descends into the earth, where it takes root in the soil of everyday experience. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. once again. His speech did not begin with charts or policies. It began with a dream. He spoke of sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners sitting together at the table of brotherhood. He spoke of valleys lifted up and mountains made low. These were not policy details. They were stories. Stories painted in the language of imagery and rhythm. Stories that made his listeners see, feel, and yearn. His vision entered their hearts, not because he explained it, but because he told it. Storytelling works because human beings are wired for it. From ancient firesides where elders spoke of gods and heroes, to modern films that capture millions of viewers, our species has always used stories to pass on wisdom, inspire courage, and unite communities. Leaders who understand this truth wield a power far greater than instructions or data. They invite people into a narrative where each individual finds a role to play. Consider Elon Musk, who often speaks about Mars. He could overwhelm audiences with statistics on atmospheric density or propulsion efficiency. Instead, he tells a story. Humanity must become a multi-planetary species to survive. That story resonates with the ancient human desire for exploration and survival. It makes engineers, investors, and ordinary people feel like participants in an epic journey. Whether one agrees with his methods or not, the narrative is unforgettable. But storytelling is not limited to speeches given to crowds of thousands. It can happen in a boardroom with 10 people, or even in a one-on-one conversation. Imagine a leader speaking to their team about a new project. Instead of saying, "We need to increase market share by 12%, the leader tells a story. Picture a family in a small town who can finally afford our product. Imagine their relief, their joy. Imagine how proud you'll feel knowing your work made that possible. Suddenly, the dry goal of percentages transforms into a mission with flesh and blood. Stories make vision tangible. They give people a way to imagine how the future will feel, how it will look, how it will change lives. Without stories, vision stays in the realm of abstraction. With stories, vision walks into the room and sits beside us. Yet not all stories are equal. Some inspire, others fall flat. What makes a story powerful enough to carry a vision into the human heart? It must have three qualities. It must be authentic, it must be emotional, and it must be relatable. Authenticity is the foundation. A story must be true, not always in a literal sense, but in a way that reflects genuine belief. If leaders tell stories they do not believe themselves, people sense the hollowness. When Nelson Mandela spoke of reconciliation, his words carried weight because he lived them, forgiving even those who had imprisoned him. Authenticity cannot be faked. It flows naturally when a leader's vision is genuinely embodied in their life. Emotion is the fire. Facts can inform, but only feelings move people to act. When telling stories, leaders must connect to values that stir the human soul: freedom, safety, dignity, hope, belonging. Consider how Greta Thunberg's climate activism resonates not through complex scientific data, but through the raw emotional force of a young voice saying, "You are stealing my future." That emotional honesty carries her vision further than charts ever could. Relatability is the bridge. A story must allow listeners to see themselves inside it. A leader may dream of transforming industries, but unless employees can imagine their own role in that transformation, they will remain bystanders. That is why effective leaders personalize stories. This is how our work together will change lives. This is how your contribution will matter. When people see themselves in the story, they stop being spectators and become co-authors. Great leaders know how to weave these qualities together. Think of Mahatma Gandhi's story of spinning his own cloth. It was authentic. He actually did it. It was emotional. It symbolized dignity and self-reliance in the face of oppression. It was relatable. Every Indian could imagine doing the same. That simple story became a symbol of a nation's vision for freedom. Even in modern workplaces, storytelling can shift culture. Imagine a startup founder describing their company's future. Instead of presenting a slide deck filled with metrics, they might tell the story of a single customer whose life was changed by their product. That customer's struggle, their breakthrough, their gratitude. This story becomes the embodiment of the company's vision. Employees walk away not just with numbers in their minds, but with a person in their hearts. The art of storytelling is not about embellishment or theatrics. It is about alignment, making sure that the story you tell aligns perfectly with the vision you hold. If a story feels forced, if it is used as manipulation, it will eventually unravel. But when a story flows naturally from a leader's deepest conviction, it gains the power to move mountains. We might ask, though, why is storytelling necessary at all? Can't vision stand on its own? The answer lies in human psychology. Vision by itself is an idea. But stories are how humans process ideas. They are the vessels that carry meaning across the ocean of the human mind. Without them, even the most brilliant vision may never reach its destination. With them, even an ordinary vision can spark extraordinary commitment. To return to our lighthouse metaphor, vision is the beam of light, but storytelling is the lens that shapes and focuses that light so it can be seen clearly. Without the lens, the light scatters, losing its strength. With the lens, the light travels far and steady, guiding ships through the dark. And so, if you are a leader, or hope to be one, do not stop at having a vision. Ask yourself, what is the story that will carry this vision into people's hearts? Can I tell it in a way that is authentic, emotional, and relatable? Can I make my listeners see themselves within it? If you can, then your vision has found its wings. As we close this section, one truth becomes clear. Vision without story is like a seed without water. It holds potential but cannot grow. Storytelling brings vision to life, transforming it from words into shared experience. But even with stories, a vision cannot thrive if it remains only in the leader's mind. It must become a collective mission. That brings us to the next step in our journey: how leaders turn their vision into consensus, transforming individual dreams into a shared purpose. A vision, no matter how clear or inspiring, remains fragile if it belongs to only one person. For it to thrive, it must become more than a leader's dream. It must be embraced as the collective aspiration of a group, a community, an organization. This is the turning point where leadership shifts from being a voice in the wilderness to being the heartbeat of a movement. Building consensus around a dream is not about forcing agreement or demanding obedience. It is about weaving many individual hopes and energies into a single tapestry, one that reflects a shared purpose. Think for a moment about how movements throughout history gained strength. They did not rise from one person shouting into the void. They grew when others began to say, "That is my dream too." When Martin Luther King Jr. spoke his vision of racial equality, his words struck a chord because millions were already carrying fragments of that dream in their hearts. His genius was not inventing the dream, but articulating it so clearly and powerfully that people could recognize themselves in it. Consensus is not created out of thin air. It is awakened. Leaders, therefore, must act less like architects drawing alone and more like conductors guiding an orchestra. Each musician already holds an instrument and a piece of the melody. The leader's task is to bring them together, to harmonize their notes into one symphony. This requires listening as much as speaking, inviting as much as declaring. Consensus is not built when leaders impose their vision, but when they invite others to own it. One way this happens is through dialogue. A wise leader opens space for conversation, not only to persuade, but also to learn. In organizations, this might look like gathering teams to ask, how does this vision resonate with you? Where do you see yourself in it? What doubts do you have? When people feel heard, their commitment deepens. Dialogue transforms vision from something handed down into something co-created. Another way leaders build consensus is through symbols. Human beings respond to images, rituals, and signs that remind them of shared identity. Think of national flags, religious ceremonies, or even the simple act of wearing a team jersey. These symbols make abstract ideas tangible. Leaders who want to build consensus often craft rituals that reinforce vision. In companies, this may take the form of all-hands meetings where milestones are celebrated as evidence that the vision is coming alive. In social movements, it might be marches, songs, or slogans that echo across generations. Consensus also forms through shared milestones. Big visions can feel distant, and people may grow weary if they see no progress. Wise leaders break the journey into steps, celebrating each achievement as proof that the vision is advancing. During the American space program, every small success, an orbit, a docking, a safe re-entry, was heralded not as an isolated event, but as progress toward the moon. Each step gave people fresh faith in the larger dream. Of course, building consensus is not without challenge. Not everyone will agree. Some will doubt, resist, or even sabotage. Here, the leader's task is twofold: to clarify the vision until it cannot be misunderstood, and to embody it so consistently that even skeptics begin to respect it. Over time, actions speak louder than arguments. When people see a leader living the vision with integrity, they are more likely to join than to oppose. Consider Mahatma Gandhi's movement for Indian independence. His vision of freedom through nonviolent resistance seemed radical at first. Many doubted whether it could succeed. But Gandhi built consensus by aligning his daily life with his message, wearing homespun cloth, living simply, and practicing nonviolence even in the face of brutality. His authenticity drew millions into agreement, not by force, but by invitation. The consensus became so strong that the British Empire, despite its power, could not suppress it. Consensus does not mean the absence of disagreement. In fact, diversity of opinion can strengthen a vision if managed wisely. When different voices contribute to shaping the path, the vision gains resilience. What matters is not that everyone agrees on every detail, but that they commit to the same destination. Just as a choir contains many voices but sings one song, so too must a community of followers unite behind a single dream while expressing it in their own unique ways. Leaders who succeed in building consensus know how to balance firmness and flexibility. They hold firm to the essence of the vision, the core values and destination, while remaining flexible in how the journey unfolds. This flexibility allows others to contribute their creativity, making the vision not just the leaders, but everyone's. In this way, consensus becomes ownership. People do not simply follow, they belong. The power of consensus can be seen in businesses that transform industries. Think of Toyota's vision of continuous improvement, known as Kaizen. It was not imposed from above alone, It became a cultural consensus. Every worker, from assembly line staff to executives, was invited to contribute ideas for improvement. The consensus around this vision created a system so strong that it reshaped global manufacturing. Building consensus also involves trust. People will not commit to a vision if they do not trust the leader who proclaims it. Trust grows from consistency, transparency, and fairness. When leaders admit mistakes, when they share both successes and struggles, they build credibility. And credibility is the soil in which consensus grows. Perhaps the most profound way leaders build consensus is by transforming vision into identity. When people begin to define themselves through the vision, it becomes inseparable from who they are. Civil rights activists did not simply support equality. They were freedom fighters. Employees at pioneering tech companies did not just build products. They saw themselves as changing the world. When vision becomes identity, consensus is no longer fragile. It is unshakable. At this stage, leadership becomes less about one person and more about a community moving together. The vision now belongs to the group. It lives in their language, their rituals, their daily actions. It guides not because the leader insists, but because the people themselves believe. As we step forward in this journey, one question naturally arises. Once consensus is built, how can a vision remain alive? Dreams have a way of fading when daily pressures return. To ensure a vision does not become a forgotten speech or a dusty poster, leaders must embody it every day, keeping it vivid in action as well as in words. That is where we now turn. A vision is not a monument to be admired from a distance. It is a living flame that must be tended every day. Once consensus has been built, the greater challenge begins. How to keep that vision alive in the routines, decisions, and actions of daily life. Without this continual nourishment, even the most inspiring vision will fade into memory, becoming a relic of past speeches rather than a force shaping the present. Leaders who understand this truth know that embodying vision is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice, a discipline of alignment between words and deeds. Think of vision as a campfire around which a community gathers. The fire may begin with a spark, but unless someone feeds it, the flames will die. A leader must ensure that wood is added regularly, stories retold, milestones celebrated, behaviors modeled, so that the fire continues to give warmth and light. People are drawn to the fire not because of the initial spark, but because of its steady glow. Keeping vision alive begins with the leader's own behavior. Words may inspire temporarily, but it is actions that sustain belief. When a leader consistently makes decisions that reflect the stated vision, people learn to trust that the dream is not just rhetoric. Consider Herb Kelleher, the founder of Southwest Airlines. His vision was to make air travel affordable and enjoyable for ordinary people. This was not merely stated in corporate documents. It was lived in his behavior. He treated employees with warmth, encouraged humor, and ensured policies matched the promise of low-cost, friendly service. Because he embodied the vision daily, employees carried it forward long after speeches ended. Another key practice is weaving vision into rituals. Rituals are repeated actions that carry symbolic meaning, reminding people of who they are and where they are headed. In organizations, rituals may take the form of weekly meetings where progress toward the vision is shared, recognition ceremonies that highlight behaviors aligned with the dream, or even simple practices like beginning each day with a reaffirmation of purpose. These rituals act like steady drumbeats, keeping the rhythm of vision alive in people's hearts. Symbols also play a role. A symbol might be as grand as a company logo, or as simple as a story repeated in hallways. When Elon Musk's companies display images of Mars, they are not merely showcasing science fiction art. They are reminding every engineer, every employee, every visitor of the larger dream. Such symbols create an atmosphere where the vision is ever present, not tucked away in documents. Milestones are another way to keep vision alive. Grand dreams often span years or decades. Without progress markers, people may lose faith. Leaders who celebrate small victories remind their followers that the vision is not only alive, but advancing. When a nonprofit working to eradicate disease announces each community where outbreaks have been eliminated, it reinforces belief in the larger mission. These milestones act as stepping stones, carrying people across the long river of time toward the distant shore of the dream. Keeping vision alive also requires storytelling. Repeated, renewed, adapted for new contexts. Stories should not be told once and forgotten. They should be retold until they become part of collective memory. Think of the way nations retell founding stories generation after generation. Each retelling renews the vision, reminding people of who they are. Leaders can do the same in organizations by continually sharing stories of how the vision is being lived today. These living stories give flesh to the dream, showing it is not a relic, but a reality. Perhaps the most important practice, however, is inviting participation. A vision cannot remain alive if it rests on the leader's shoulders alone. People must be empowered to embody the vision in their own way. A teacher inspired by a school's vision of nurturing lifelong learners must be free to experiment with new methods. A frontline employee in a company devoted to sustainability must be encouraged to propose greener practices. When people feel ownership, they become co-guardians of the vision. This principle was evident in the story of Muhammad Yunus and the Grameen Bank. His vision of using microloans to lift people out of poverty did not remain alive because of his speeches alone. It endured because thousands of borrowers, staff, and local leaders embodied it daily, repaying loans, starting businesses, supporting their communities. The vision survived because it was woven into ordinary actions, not left to rest on extraordinary declarations. Yet there is always the danger of drift. Pressures of the present. Profit margins, political cycles, personal ambitions can pull leaders and organizations away from their vision. That is why vigilance is essential. Leaders must continually ask, does this decision align with our vision? Does this behavior reflect our dream? Without such reflection, vision becomes diluted, replaced by expediency. The discipline of alignment can be costly. Sometimes it requires saying no to tempting opportunities that do not fit the vision. When Patagonia chose to remain committed to environmental sustainability, it often rejected profitable paths that conflicted with that commitment. Such sacrifices are not signs of weakness, but demonstrations of integrity. They tell people, this vision is not negotiable. And that conviction inspires trust. Vision also stays alive when it evolves responsibly. A dream must be steady at its core, but flexible at its edges. As contexts change, as new challenges arise, the way vision is expressed may need to shift. Leaders must be attentive, updating rituals, stories, and strategies while keeping the heart of the vision intact. This balance between constancy and adaptation ensures the dream remains relevant without losing its essence. Let us not forget the role of community in sustaining vision. People reinforce one another's belief through conversation, encouragement, and shared struggle. During the civil rights movement, activists drew strength from one another, singing songs and marching side by side. Each individual flame could have been extinguished by fear, but together they kept the fire burning. Leaders who foster community ensure that vision is carried not by one voice but by many. To return to our earlier metaphor, The lighthouse must shine every night, not just on special occasions. A single flash of light can inspire, but only consistent brightness can guide ships safely home. Leaders who embody vision daily become that steady light. Their actions, stories, and symbols remind people again and again why they are walking this path. As you reflect on your own role, ask yourself, how can I keep my vision alive today? Can I embody it in a decision I make? Can I tell a story that renews it in someone's heart? Can I celebrate a small milestone that proves it is advancing? These daily acts are the fuel that keeps the fire of vision burning. And as we move toward the next section, we will step into the lives of those whose visions shaped history, not just through words, but through consistent action. From Martin Luther King to Elon Musk to daring startup founders, we will see how vision, when truly lived, becomes more than leadership. It becomes a way of life. A vision becomes most powerful, not when it is spoken, but when it is lived. History is filled with leaders whose visions were not only articulated in speeches, but embodied in their daily choices, sacrifices, and persistence. These figures remind us that vision is not a decorative phrase. It is a way of life, a standard that shapes every action. To understand how vision transforms leadership into legacy, let us turn to some of the icons whose lives demonstrate this truth. Martin Luther King Jr. stands as one of the clearest examples. His dream was not abstract. It was lived through marches, sit-ins, and countless personal risks. He did not only speak of justice from a podium. He endured imprisonment, threats, and exhaustion to keep the dream alive. People followed him not simply because of the eloquence of his words, but because of the consistency of his life. His vision of racial equality was compelling precisely because it was embodied in his willingness to suffer for it. A leader who lives the vision gives it flesh and blood, making it undeniable. Similarly, Elon Musk represents a modern embodiment of visionary leadership. Whatever one thinks of his personality or methods, it is hard to deny that he lives his vision. His dream of a sustainable future powered by electric vehicles and solar energy is not confined to PowerPoint slides. It has taken form in Tesla cars on roads worldwide, in massive battery factories, in solar rooftops. His dream of colonizing Mars is not idle speculation. It is backed by rockets launched into the sky. His life is consumed by the pursuit of these visions, and that obsession, for better or worse, galvanizes those around him. People do not merely buy his products, they join a movement. Startup founders often embody this same principle on a smaller scale. Think of a young entrepreneur working from a garage or a cafe. They may not have vast resources, but they live their vision with intensity. They sacrifice stable jobs, pour their savings into their ideas, and persuade friends and investors to believe in what does not yet exist. The startup founder's long nights, failed prototypes, and relentless drive are not just business choices. They are evidence of living a vision. Their life says, "I am willing to stake everything on this future." This embodiment of vision is what separates leaders who are remembered from those who are forgotten. Many leaders give speeches. Fewer live their words. Many declare goals. Fewer align their actions consistently with those goals. Those who do become legends. Consider Mother Teresa. Her vision was to serve the poorest of the poor. She did not simply talk about compassion. She lived it daily in the streets of Calcutta, caring for the sick and dying with her own hands. Her life itself became the message. What unites these figures is not perfection, but persistence. They were flawed, as all humans are, but they kept returning to their vision. When setbacks came, when critics attacked, when resources ran thin, they did not abandon the dream. They adjusted, adapted, endured. This persistence told followers that the vision was more than talk. It was a calling worth fighting for. Living the vision also means integrating it into every layer of decision-making. It is not enough to speak of justice while making unjust choices, or to preach sustainability while pursuing profit at any cost. Integrity is the lifeblood of vision. When leaders make difficult decisions that reflect their stated vision, even at personal or organizational cost, they prove the dream is genuine. Consider Patagonia's decision to donate profits to environmental causes, even when it could have kept the money. Such acts communicate powerfully. Our vision is real, but let us not imagine that only world-famous leaders can live vision. Parents, teachers, community leaders, ordinary people do it every day. A teacher with a vision of nurturing curiosity keeps that vision alive by creating a classroom where questions are welcomed. A parent with a vision of raising compassionate children lives it by modeling kindness in daily interactions. A local organizer with a vision of a cleaner neighborhood lives it by picking up trash themselves before asking others to join. Living vision is not about scale, it is about authenticity. Why does living vision matter so much? Because people follow what they see more than what they hear. A leader may inspire briefly with words, but if actions contradict the message, followers will drift away. Conversely, when actions reinforce the vision day after day, trust grows unshakable. Trust is the bridge between vision and reality. Without it, visions collapse. With it, visions endure across generations. Living vision also creates culture. When a leader embodies the dream, others begin to imitate. Soon the vision is no longer carried by one but by many. This is how movements spread, how organizations sustain themselves, how communities transform. The leader's life sets a pattern that becomes collective identity. Martin Luther King's commitment to nonviolence inspired thousands to do the same. Elon Musk's risk-taking inspires employees to work with urgency. Mother Teresa's compassion inspired countless others to volunteer. One life lived with vision becomes many lives shaped by vision. At its deepest level, living vision is an act of faith. It means behaving as if the future you imagine is already on its way. Gandhi spun cloth as if independence were inevitable. Mandela negotiated as if reconciliation were possible. Musk launches rockets as if Mars is already within humanity's grasp. To live vision is to embody tomorrow, today. And now, as we come to the end of our exploration, let us gather these threads. We began by seeing vision as a lighthouse guiding the uncertain. We explored how a compelling vision must be clear, inspiring, and feasible. We discovered the power of storytelling to carry vision into the heart. The importance of consensus to transform it into a shared mission, and the practices that keep it alive daily. Finally, we have seen that true leadership is not about declaring vision, but about living it. Vision is not meant to sit in a drawer or hang on a wall. It is meant to walk, breathe, and act. It is meant to be lived so fully that others cannot help but see it, feel it, and join it. Vision is not a luxury for leaders. It is their lifeblood. Without vision, leadership becomes administration, steering without destination. With vision, leadership becomes transformation, shaping not only the present, but also the future. But vision cannot remain in words alone. It must be lived in decisions, embodied in habits, kept alive through rituals, symbols, and stories. Above all, it must be trusted, and trust is earned only when actions match words. Every leader who changed history had a moment when they stood before others and dared to describe a world that did not yet exist. Their courage was not in seeing the future. that is imagination. Their courage was in living as if that future were already on its way. That courage turned followers into believers and believers into co-creators. Perhaps the most humbling truth is this: you do not need fame or power to live vision. Each of us can. Every parent, teacher, neighbor, entrepreneur, or friend can choose to embody a dream worth living. When you treat others with dignity, you live a vision of a kinder world. When you make sacrifices for sustainability, you live a vision of a healthier planet. When you encourage someone to believe in themselves, you live a vision of a more hopeful future. So let this be your invitation. Do not wait for perfect circumstances, vast resources, or official titles. Begin where you are. Ask yourself, what future do I see, and how can I live it today? Then take one step, however small, that embodies that dream. Each step, each action, each sacrifice becomes part of a greater story. A story in which you are not merely a participant, but a leader. For vision is not something to be spoken once and forgotten. It is something to be lived, day by day, choice by choice, until the dream becomes reality. That is the art of painting the future. That is the essence of leadership.